Top of the morning folks, today from the Reddit Rainforest. I once bought a make your own hemp necklace kit and tried to smoke the cord because I thought hemp equals weed. Reddit, what was your most spectacular misguided failure? I used to think I could suck milk out of my nipples with a straw when I was super young. I'm a male. Growing up Mormon, I was told that drinking coffee would send me to hell, so I ate coffee grounds. I also thought that it doubled as chew. My uncle does chewing tobacco, so I was the 12 years old kid walking around the schoolyard thinking I was a badass spitting out brown coffee spit on a caffeine jitter. No wonder I was so popular with the ladies. I have always been able to come up with catchy names and titles for things. At age 15, my friends and family had said things along the lines of, if only you could get a job doing something like that. One day of extreme boredom, I was perusing the phone book and saw listings for title companies. I thought, oh wow, I actually can get a job doing what I'm so good at. So I began calling many of them asking if they were hiring. The first few were not, but then I finally found one that was, and they asked me what sort of experience I had and I said, none yet. But I'm really good at coming up with titles of things and I proceeded to list off the many titles of term papers, short stories, ideal pet names, etc. that I had thought of for friends and family. The guy on the phone was laughing and trying so hard to joke it back. Finally he asked if I was messing with him, and then he very patiently and kindly explained what exactly a title company does. He thanked me for making his week, though. So what the duck does a title company do? The role of a title company is to verify that the title to real estate is legitimately given to a home buyer. I ate and man out of the gutter when I was 7. Man, I love mans. For some reason as a child I was convinced that the cups used in baseball were for peeing in while you were in the outfield. So on the first day of t-ball I thought I'd see how the cup worked. You can imagine the rest. On my first day of t-ball, I thought that to tag someone out in baseball/t-ball, you had to actually throw the ball at the runner. Beamed some poor little girl right in the face. When I was 16 I accidentally drove 3 hours from my house trying to get to a friend from school's house. I drove 200 miles from Kansas City to the Iowa border because I missed an exit on the highway. Once I saw Amish people I figured it out and turned around. One recess in middle school, a friend of mine managed to tie my shoelaces together without me noticing. By the time I realized, he was already starting to make his escape. I threw my leg at him like Bruce Lee. Seeing as my feet were basically tied together, the kick brought my other leg with it. I had tripped myself. I brought great dishonor to my family. Once when I was in 8th grade, I was hanging out with some high schoolers who I thought were super cool. They were talking about getting stoned, thinking I was clever and would look totally educated if I contributed to this conversation. I asked, does not that only happen in third world countries? I thought masturbating with soap would be a good idea when I was a young lad. I was wrong. Edit for clarification. It usually works well. But getting that burning sensation of soap in one's urethra at a young age is scary and extremely painful. Yeah right. Hand sanitizer is the way to go. I used to light incense and try to breath in the smoke from them thinking that it would get me high. One time when I was a kid I tried to save my chewed gum during a movie by sticking it in my underwear, and my mom had to rip it from my prepubescent peach fuzz. I once poured Sprite on a fire because I thought it was flammable. Everyone got mad at me for putting out our tiny bonfire and then proceeded to make fun of me for the rest of the night/my life. That's like saying ketchup is hair. You know those dinosaurs you put in water and they grow? I hated how long it took to dry out and shrink. So I put it in the microwave. It took about 5 seconds for the tail to fall off and start steaming. I had some of those in pill form. Yep, I swallowed it. I wanted a Trex in my tummy. On a Cub Scout camping trip, the Scout master was a constant chain smoker. A bunch of us were sitting in a tent while it was raining and we all got the idea to try smoking. Did we get the kid whose father was the Scout master to steal one of his father's cigarettes? Nope. We were resourceful scouts. We made our own cigarette from dried pine needles and post-it notes. It was not the satisfying mild smoke we were expecting. Smoked grass thinking I was smoking grass. I was 12. Shut up. My little brother once dumped a bunch of yeast in a jug of apple cider and left it to sit overnight in the closet because he thought he'd have beer the next day. If I recall correctly, the cider just exploded everywhere and my mom found the mess. He was also about 12 at the time. Technically he'd have alcohol if he let it sit for a few days. Obviously, the code to it to escape, but has got the basics. Silly putty. It was so popular at our school for a while, but it got dirty/lost easily. I found a winner. I went to the local hardware store and bought a block of putty. I had to spend all my allowance and borrow 2 weeks worth of allowance from mum to buy it. But it was over 10 times the amount that came in the $5 packs at the toy shops, and only cost me about $13. I divided it up and packaged it in little containers I found around the place, many being fairly crucial for games or toys I had. But I did not care because I was about to get rich. I took them to school and started to sell them at first break. By lunchtime, word had spread and I sold almost all of it before the first kid came back saying it did not bounce. I tested it for the first time, and he was right. Silly putty is meant to bounce. Window putty does not. Malarkey. I spent the rest of the day returning money and getting back the putty in containers, some of which had been thrown out, enabling me to say no return equals no refund. I still made a small amount from those ones, but it did not offset my next 2 weeks of lost allowance. That crushed my entrepreneurial spirit for a while. I got high on Benadryl, and it was not fun. Let me explain. I was 18 and living at home. I had never done any serious drugs. It was a Sunday evening and I had nothing to do, no homework, no video games, nothing. This was in that wonderful summer void between high school and college. Boredom creates creativity. So I began to research everything that was in the bathroom medicine cabinet. And that's when I found it: Benadryl. Benadryl's active antihistamine ingredient is diphenhydramine. In high dosages, it has sedative effects, but in even higher dosages, it has hallucinogenic effects. Bingo. I knew that was what I wanted. The experience of hallucinating it sounded awesome. To escape from reality like that, I stocked up on Mountain Dew to counteract the sedative effects. Measured out a dosage I thought would get me seeing stars. Something like 600 milligrams if I remember. And started chomping. After about 5 minutes, my heart was palpitating pretty heavily from the acetaminophen and caffeine. But once the sedative effects from the Benadryl kicked in, I calmed down. My head pounded a bit, but I felt nothing in my brain. I was disappointed and looked back at my bottle. Google told me the acetaminophen would not kill me until much higher doses. So I popped a few more, raising my dosage to 1200 mg plus. Anyone who knows drugs can probably see where this is going. I decided not to have any more caffeine this time. So once the sedatives kicked in, it was hard to stay awake. And then I heard them. Them? Who were they? I had no idea, but they were calling my name. Clearly, I rushed out into the hallway, scared when I saw the light was on, and thinking my parents had come home from their trip early. Wait, the light was not even on. What? The walls were breathing. They were expanding, in and out, with each pulse of my head. Why was my head pulsing? The blood was pushing the walls. I knew that clearly. They called me again. But back to my room this time. I came back, but Thea'd already left. I lay down on my bed and stared at the bugs on the ceiling. I'd always hated those bugs and been afraid they would fall on me as they crawled all over the ceiling and the walls and sometimes the floor. But at least I was safe on the bed. I looked over at my dresser. Someone had lit a candle on it. Was it me? Probably. The bugs. Why were there bugs? I was inside. Wait. I took Benadryl. I was hallucinating. No, I was not. The bugs had always been there. The people asked me how I was feeling, and I replied to them, and my thought was that it was fine. They told me I was wrong. I did not understand. Their reply had a really uncomfortable glow, and it made me scared to disappoint them. I looked at the candle. It had been knocked over, and my hand was next to it. Then I figured out I'd gotten it backwards, and was my hand that had knocked over the candle. But I could not remember when or why there was hot wax all over my hand. I figured I should probably clean my hand. So I got up from the bed. The whole room was pulsing now, like it did every night when I did not listen to them. But now the bugs were gone because the spiders had eaten them, and I hated spiders. They came down from the ceiling, and I could see them out of the corner of my eyes, but they could see me from all of this. I knew they were watching me and wanted to eat me, and I was more scared than I had ever felt in my life. So I walked to the bathroom because it was safe there and ran hot water until the dry wax melted and told them all about how sorry I was over and over. They were angry and did not talk to me anymore, but kept talking to each other like they did not want me to hear. I heard my name over and over. They were deciding what to do with me. I wanted to cry, but did not want to seem weak, so I acted angry and told them they could do what they want. I realized I was using real words instead of thoughts and then laughed because I remembered thinking thought words were real, when obviously they only understood real words like any other people. One of them smiled when I laughed. I stepped back into the breathing hallways and let the pulse rock me back and forth as I leaned against a bent door. Then I opened my eyes and the door was still there, but it was not bent anymore. The light was killing the voices and wait. What the duck? I opened my eyes again and blinked a few times. I was lying in my bed and it was morning. There was still wax on my hand from the knocked over candle. I'd never washed it off. The light coming in my window looked too bright and colorful, like someone had turned up the color contrast in Photoshop. I panicked as I realized I had a half hour to get to work. I got out of bed and promptly collapsed to the floor. I had no balance. Somehow managed to get dressed and got in my car. I was not a smart kid. As soon as I stepped outside, I realized I was either hungover in some unspecified way or still tripping. The clouds looked way too fluffy. The colors way too sharp. The whole world was like a storybook. It was beautiful but uncomfortable. I finally got to work an hour late. Getting ready had taken me far longer than I thought it had. By the time I got off work, most of the effects had subsided, and none of the managers called me out for acting oddly, so I assumed it successfully faked being okay. Oh, the one effect that did not subside? I could not get an erection for more than 4 days after that. If you are reading this, you made it until the end of the video. Click the thumbs up button, since you made it until the end. Bam. On screen there should be some more videos similar to this. So either go do something else, or watch more videos. That's about it. There is no more here. What are you waiting for, a secret message or something? Okay, think. This is not a secret, but subscribe for more videos like this.